evolving from Adam Smith's free market to Karl Marx's worker ownership. Besides The Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith wrote another book that's really interesting because we can see American society reflected in its thinking. It is called The Theory of Moral Sentiments. He basically goes on these rants about sympathy, and a lot of it is actually enlightening. But at a certain point, there's a steep decline in intellectual thought, and it's the same decline in intellectual thought that this country engages in to this very day. Adam Smith tells you that he cannot sympathize with poor people, and he goes through this really complex derivation to explain why he can't sympathize with poor people. Then, he just gives his opinion, which he previously told you was devoid of sympathy, stating that poor people are inferior. He's telling the reader, I think poor people suck, but that's because I can't empathize with them, because society has deemed that I am the one to receive respect. He may be right about the way broader civilization reveres the wealthy, but our takeaway should be to go out and get a poor person's perspective. Marx's and Engels' contribution was to empathize with the poor, to understand the trauma response inflicted by this dichotomy. Poor people are those without money, and make up the moneyless aspect of society embedded within a non-indigenous moneyed society. Money creates its antithesis within its own sphere, which creates the poor people's ideology and the utilitarian survival necessity of communal human relations. One needs human relations because everyone else with the stuff to survive is being an asshole. The opiate of the masses is not an addiction, it's the pain relief. Monks live a generally moneyless and classless life. People who are chewed up and spit out by the system for thousands of years seek out a monk's life because the system was too traumatizing for them. Religion attempts to offer pain relief from a system that resembles the animal kingdom's predator and prey dynamic by forging communal relationships that can be leveraged to accomplish things that might otherwise be forbidden within predator and prey environments. Adam Smith's beliefs on poor people undermine his entire ideals of a market free of special interest. Adam Smith says to make a market low in debt, rent, interest, profit, and tax. But he also says poor people don't matter. That right there is how you get freedom defined by the profit motive, which seeks to hollow out the middle class into distinct classes on the very basis of their lacking leverage to get a better deal. By not initiating the beginning of this country as one free of slavery, the financial predation became a way of life. Freedom became exclusive to a class of white men by law. It contradicted itself, and that contradiction for the rest of U.S. history would come back to haunt people over and over again. The finance predators go away and they come back. Why? Because their wealth never crashes into nothingness. They didn't die, they were never truly killed off. They just lose some power and spend a few decades regrouping and developing a new strategy. Then, they unleash that strategy, and it works because manipulation uses real motives, and you create a system of incentives by which the whole system comes undone. Truth be told, Marxism is an extension of the free market. If you were to apply this free market democracy to everyone, including those who typically don't matter. Profiteers speculate the difference between wages and the cost of products or services. The profiteers are beneficiaries, while the workers are an expense. Additionally, profiteers collectivize ownership into the hands of the highest bidder. With worker ownership, workers get paid a percentage of net revenue, turning them into beneficiaries to be enriched by their own labor, rather than expenses to maximize an interest payment on the basis of how desperate or needy a person may be. During Adam Smith's day, work and home life were coupled, but by Marx's time the Industrial Revolution was booming, where home and work life had partitioned into separate spheres of meaning. The actual free market is ownership over one's own life, and therefore collective worker ownership over industrial property is the free market for the industrial age, where factory automation demanded people stop living off the land like farmers. We evolve from Adam Smith to Karl Marx by understanding that a free market for one class of people will always result in monopoly power. The elites practice collective ownership in the hands of the highest bidder. Would it really be that big of a deal to give the ones who work at the business partial ownership? It would remain as collectively owned as it already is. It would just be into a different set of hands, the ones who deserve it for dedicating their time and labor to the business.